Hello, viewers. I'm glad you're here today. It's time for makgeolli talk. It's time to talk to myself about makgeolli, delicious Korean rice wine. And today's topic is a common question about brewing. So we're going to tackle this question. It's how can I avoid the taste of nuruk being too strong in my brew? What can I do to reduce the taste or smell of nuruk in my brew? So that's the brewing question, and we're going to tackle that today. We have there are a lot of ways to address this. So if you like this video, please click that like button and subscribe. Click the bell to be notified whenever I publish a new video, and please share this video wherever it is appropriate. And as always, I really appreciate your help in spreading the word about rustic Asian rice wine. So, today's question: how to reduce the aroma or taste of nuruk in the brew. Now, the issue is that nuruk is made with by growing mold on grain, usually wheat, for the things that I brew, usually wheat, and so it's made by mold growing on wheat. And after the mold has grown, it's scraped off, and you're left with the enzymes that the mold excretes. As it's growing on the wheat cake, it excretes many kinds of enzymes, but especially amylase that'll convert starch to sugar. So it's those enzymes that we want. We don't actually want the mold itself, but we want the enzymes that the mold produces as it's growing and trying to eat the wheat. So the consequence of that is that, mold could have a bad flavor or smell. And sometimes that carries over into the end product, and then it's an unpleasant taste or aroma. So how to avoid that? So there's at least, let's say, 6 things we can do. So the first one is probably obvious, one that you thought of already. Well, if you don't like the taste of nuruk, just use less of it. But there's a limit for that. Most of the recipes that I put on this channel are using the minimum amount of nuruk already. If your nuruk is at 300 saccharification power, and that's what most of the nuruk that you buy in a package, that's going to be the saccharification power. That 300 saccharification power will convert, if you want to convert a kilogram of starch in rice to sugar, you need 90 grams of that nuruk to convert 1 kilogram. So that's really the minimum amount right there. So you might not be able to reduce the amount you're using. If you were using 200 or 300 grams for your 1 kilogram of rice, well, then you should reduce it down. Okay, so that should proportionally reduce the taste of nuruk in your brew. But what else can you do? Well, there's also the second thing. You can investigate different brands or different types of nuruk. There's different products are going to have different flavors. Just for example, this Gumjang Sansong nuruk. This is a famous kind of nuruk from Busan, and it is known for having a strong flavor. It has a stronger flavor because of the way it's made in humid conditions. So some other brands of nuruk, like all the kinds of nuruk that I've seen in H Mart, are mild flavor. So for example, so you can, if you're interested in the comparison between the different kinds of nuruk, please watch my earlier videos on when I brewed with all the different kinds of nuruk that I was able to find. I always mention how strong a flavor they have. So that's something you should keep in mind is the brand of nuruk really does make a difference. And the storage of your nuruk does make a difference. Sometimes if the nuruk was stored improperly, or if it just was too humid, it's not going to smell as good. So what's a good smell for nuruk? It can smell earthy, and it can smell like a barn, but it should smell like a clean barn, and it should not smell moldy. If even though nuruk was created with mold, if mold is growing on it again, that's not a good thing. We don't want that. We don't want the mold spores. We don't want the mold itself. We just wanted the enzymes from the mold as it was growing. And part of the process of creating nuruk is actually trying to scrape all that stuff off. So we don't want mold regrowing on the nuruk. So that would be a bad thing if it smells moldy or like ammonia. Those strong and unpleasant barnyard aromas, those are the bad aromas. But it's good if it smells like a clean barn. It can smell earthy or like straw. That's great, but not those overly strong smells. That's what we're trying to avoid. So the storage of nuruk, and sometimes you just don't know when you get a package how it has been stored. Maybe this batch is not going to turn out the way you like. You're going to have to use a different package of nuruk. Okay, so let's say this is the nuruk you have. You want to use it. What's another method you can do to reduce the smell? Well, it's something you should try to do as often as possible is the bapche method. That's where you spread out the nuruk that you want to use in the sun, and it should be broken up into the appropriate size that you're going to brew with and spread out in the sun. Direct sunlight. It's best if it's direct sunlight, and even getting fresh air too. That's good. So that method helps clean up some of the bad smells. So that's a good thing to do. And that's very traditional. That's a standard thing to do. It just sometimes is difficult to schedule this with the weather. You need a sunny day. You need a good place to put it, and a place where something else isn't going to try to eat it, since it's out in the direct sunlight. So it does require some planning and luck to do it properly, but it's a standard thing, and you should do it wherever possible. So if you've done all that, you've selected your nuruk, appropriate amount, you've done bapche, what else can you do? Well, another traditional method is the sugo-que method. It's where you, instead of putting the nuruk whole in your brewing, as you're brewing, you soak the nuruk, and the enzymes dissolve into the water, and you just use that water containing all the enzymes to brew with. So you're filtering out the solids in the nuruk at a very early stage, even before any fermentation happens. And this works because the enzymes in nuruk are water soluble. So a lot of them end up in the water. So using this method, you're going to have to use a bit more nuruk to start with, just because not all the enzymes are going to end up in the water. So in order to get a good result in the end, you're going to have to use a bit more nuruk to start with. But hopefully, because you're only using the liquid part, if the nuruk had some strong flavors or aromas, you could remove some of that by this method, the sugo-que method. So you're brewing with the soaked water and not the solids in the nuruk. So that's a method. An alternate method is to this is for multi-stage brews. You would start with, let's say the first stage is going to be bombach or juk, some porridge, and you use the nuruk whole. Let's say you mix the nuruk into the cooled porridge. That's the first stage, and then after 2 days, you're going to do the second stage, which is, let's say, godubab. But before you mix the cooled godubab into the first stage, which has already started fermenting, before you do that, you filter the first stage. So this is the first stage would be called mitsul, and this is like a filtered mitsul. So that's a real method for certain traditional recipes. You filter the mitsul. So again, that's filtering out the solids in the nuruk, and the enzymes. Most of the enzymes are hopefully in the liquid. So they're still going to be useful for saccharifying the godubab of the second stage. But all the solids of the nuruk are going to be removed because you're doing this intermediate filtering between the first and second stages. So that's a legitimate method to reduce the aroma and taste of nuruk. It's also going to affect the color. It's because you're filtering out the nuruk, either the sugo-que method or this filtering the mitsul method. Both of these methods will result in a whiter brew because any of the brown color of the wheat, while you're filtering that out earlier, so it might result in a brighter brew in the end. And you could see some of this in my earlier videos where I do experiments with this. You'll be able to see the results of what the brewing process, the fermentation process, looks like with these methods. Let's say you've done any of these methods, you're still there's still some flavor or aroma in the end. You've filtered your brew. It's in a bottle, but there's still some aroma or taste you don't like. What can you do? Well, the fact is, if this is right after bottling, the brew is still going to change flavor. Often just sitting in the fridge and resting a bit, the flavor will change. It often will become milder just from aging in the fridge for a week or two. So that's a final method. You can, even if you've done everything else, the flavors, some flavor is still too strong or too harsh for you, you can wait and it'll work. Just by waiting, the flavor will change and often become milder. So those are all the methods I could think of today to reduce the aroma or taste of nuruk if it's too strong. These are some things you can do. Now, if there are other methods that I forgot to mention, please let me know in the comments. Have you ever had this experience of your nuruk being too strong, and what did you do to overcome it? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate it. And as always, thank you for watching.